So, we are back with another Bazaar Build out of context challenge. This is a challenge that the community partakes in, you guys, where you have to take an item suggested by myself or by the Bazaar developers themselves and build an entire Bazaar build around it, but with a catch. This is entirely out of context. You get no hero skills, no hero powers, no item scaling, nothing. You just have to figure out how to do the build by itself. And on top of that, today's item, the challenge that you were to build around, is the Bitey Bactrian, who, as you'll see in the build, requires you to have no weapons in order to get the maximum use out of. So on top of having no skills, no stats, no scaling, this is also a no weapon challenge. So let's see how they get on. First up is the challenge item itself, the Bitey Bactrian. Every 10 seconds, this large, chonky weapon deals 20 damage per non-weapon item that you own. It also has a passive of 50% lifesteal, which, if you're not sure, lifesteal, when you do damage, you get that percentage of damage back as healing. So if I do 2 damage of from the Bitey Bactrian, 50% lifesteal would mean I would heal for 1. It also has dual cast while you have above 50% health. So if I have 100 health, maximum, and I have 51 health left, Bitey Bactrian will dual cast, which means he'll trigger twice. So if it just did 20 damage, it would do 20 damage and 10 healing from the lifesteal, and then activate again, doing another 20 damage, another 10 lifesteal. So 40 damage and 20 lifesteal total. However, while we're talking about the Bitey Bactrian, this build encompasses 4 non-weapon items. So this thing is going to be doing a hefty 80 damage and 40 healing every time it triggers. And it probably will dual cast. And for that, let's get into the rest of the build. By the way, Bitey Bactrian 80 damage is insane. I don't think I need to, 100 health is what you start with, and most classes won't deviate a lot from there. So the fact that it can do 80 damage is insane. So, that's got our damage covered. Let's see what else we can do. Bandages, next item up. Fun fact, this used to be Abacus, but we've moved past it. Every 8 seconds, this small item heals you for 5. This heals for 3 times when you're below half health. This is quite a quick-firing healing item that deals so much bonus healing when you're below that half health mark. This synergizes perfectly with the Bitey Bactrian, who wants to be above half health just 2 seconds after bandages trigger. Not to mention, if you have some way of buffing healing in general, then bandages are really going to start popping off, because it's 3 times. Every 1 extra healing you can give the bandages will be 3 extra healing if you're below half health. So, bandages, really, really perfect, synergistic pick. It's almost like multiple people came together and picked bandages for this build. But hey. Ice Cream Truck is the next item up. This large vehicle, every 10 seconds, applies 2 seconds of freeze to 2 different items. When any item is frozen, heal health equal to that item's value. Now, this build is called the Tundra Camel, and I wasn't sure when I first saw that you were using Bitey Bactrian how you would fit Tundra with Camel. Camels usually like the desert, and the Bitey Bactrian had nothing about freezing on his abilities. But this Ice Cream Truck is a pick out of left field that I really think is such an interesting build to have. So, every 10 seconds applies 2 seconds of freeze on 2 items. 2 enemy items, obviously. So at 10 seconds, it's going to freeze 2 enemy items and heal you by their value. That's pretty good. If the enemy have some dangerous items, you're going to heal for quite a lot. We've seen some Bitey Bactrian himself is a 12 cost item. If the enemy has a shiny or a fancy, you're going to heal for 24, 36. You could start healing for some real big numbers with Ice Cream Truck. On top of that, it freezes the enemy, which is a form of stall, and while it doesn't sound like it will fit because you have more of an aggressive build, you're just purposefully trying to, and if you haven't realized this by now, this build is just trying to guarantee Bitey Bactrian's dual cast. So we are just trying to make sure we are above 50% health every time this little fluffy boy triggers. And freeze is a really, really smart way of doing that I hadn't considered when I first looked at this card. Stall is really, really good with Bitey Bactrian. And the fact that we have stall and healing in the same item makes Ice Cream Truck a perfect pick. However, there is a small little tiny weeny change that I would make to this. Because Ice Cream Truck triggers at 10 seconds, which is the same as Bitey Bactrian, items in the bazaar, if they trigger at the same time, trigger from left to right. Currently, Bitey Bactrian at 10 seconds will trigger, hopefully dual casting, dealing its damage, and then Ice Cream Truck will trigger, applying freeze and healing. If we put the Ice Cream Truck to the left of Bitey Bactrian, Ice Cream Truck at 10 seconds will trigger, freezing 2 enemy items and healing you, hopefully healing you above 50% health, but then Bitey Bactrian to trigger the split second after that, dealing all of its damage. So yes, I would slightly swap this around and move the Ice Cream Truck either above or to the left of Bitey Bactrian, or whichever direction you're looking at things. But otherwise, a perfect item to include in this build. Next up is a similarly colour-schemed, similarly cold item, the Snow Tell. This medium property, or building, whatever archetype word we're using for it at the moment, every 4 seconds freezes a random enemy item for 2 seconds. And whenever you freeze, heal for 20. This is an important item. So every 4 seconds, you're healing for 20. Is effectively what this says. First and foremost, that's bloody strong. Secondly, this will duo with Ice Cream Truck, because Ice Cream Truck freezes 2 items. Ice Cream Truck is always going to at least heal you for 40. So it's even more important that Ice Cream Truck happens before Bitey Bactrian now, because it heals for 40 at least, thanks to the Snowtail. The Snowtail is also healing you at 4 seconds and at 8 seconds for 20 health, while also stalling the enemy, continuing to stall the enemy. Another perfect pick for this build. I would have liked to see more small items alongside the Bitey Bactrian to get its damage through the roof, but I think with this combination of healing and freezing and stall, that you're almost guaranteed to dual cast Bitey Bactrian every time, dealing 160 damage and healing 80. This build is already insane for that. And then last up, we have the Succulents, which every 8 seconds heals for 4, and then gives this item +4 healing for the fight. This small little item is another beautiful little addition. It's mostly there, I feel, to give Bitey Bactrian 20 more health. Kind of like bandages. They both help with the healing, but they don't really help with the stalling. They're just small items that can trigger Bitey Bactrian's sort of active passive to deal 20 more damage. This is a really, really sweet little combo. Succulents is going to try and keep you health up, but it's really not going to do anything next to Ice Cream Truck and Snowtail. Same goes for bandages. They're both just there to make sure Bitey Bactrian is hitting hard. And it is a really beautiful little control build, effectively. It's a control build with a win condition, though. There are control builds in the Bazaar that just want to outlive and outlast until the Sandstorm kicks in. Sandstorm doesn't kick in until at least about 30 seconds. Bitey Bactrian, by then, is kicked 3 times. And with this build, that's going to multicast. Dual cast, specifically. He's going to kick 6 times. And he's going to hurt a lot. if you're against even a Pygmalion build trying to stall you out, right? The Pygmalion build that's mega stall has to last until the Sandstorm kicks in at about 30 seconds. By then, they would have taken 6 attacks, which is going to be, quick maths, 480 damage from Bitey Bactrian. It's 80 times 6. That's gonna be a struggle. On top of that, you have so much lifesteal and so much healing and freeze that I think this build out-controls the control builds we've seen so far. I have talked this build up so much. I was gonna give it a semi-decent rating. I was like, you know what? Enzo, who's the creator of this build, solid job. I like the idea, Bitey Bactrian plus control, but the more I think about it and the more I talk about it, the more I want to slap a big old 5 out of 5 on this thing. It has some pivot options, which I like. This is one thing. So, Bazaar Build out of context, there are a couple of things to remember about it, right? First of all, no hero stats, no hero skills, no scaling, all that good shit. Second thing is we're taking it completely out of the context of how you make your build. In the Bazaar, you have to go to different merchants, and they will randomly generate items, and you have to build them up through the day while still winning. It's important for you to be able to get to this build without having died 3 times, and to get here consistently. However, I don't think you need to get here consistently. Because honestly, Bitey Bactrian is a late game purchase. While you're trying to get here, you can aim for healing items, bandages, succulents, peace pipe, all of these sorts of things, right? Or, as you see them, you can aim for stalling items, Snowtail, ice cream truck, luxury tents, pinatas to gain maximum health. All of these things will help make Bitey Bactrian hit hard in the late game, and then once you get to that sort of later stage, start going to Lux, the luxury item merchant, to try and find Bitey Bactrian. Start going to weapon merchants to try and find him. At that point, you want to have saved up money to try and get here, but hopefully you're already running some sort of store build. So I think this actually has the building blocks to get to this build. And obviously it has pivot potential, right? Because if you don't find the Bitey Bactrian and you instead find luxury tents and lion's cane, then you just pivot into a max health build and you start trying to run more pinatas and go to more eating contests. If you don't see that and you just see a bunch more health healing items, then you just run that down and you get loads and loads of more healing items, and then maybe pick up a Bitey Bactrian later, maybe not. So this has plenty of pivot items, plenty of build-up items. This is my first legitimate 5 out of 5 BBOOC build. Congratulations. Well, if you like the look of that build and want to dig more into some Pygmalion properties, specifically the Pygmalion properties that aren't Snowtail, then we did a whole video on those. You should probably go and check that out. And while you're gone, just a quick word from me. If you're seeing this video live or as it's dropped, I'm probably either getting married right now or have just recently got married, and there's going to be a slowdown of videos for a couple of weeks. So if you only see one video a week from me for the next couple of weeks, don't worry too much. I'm off getting married, getting hitched, and then we'll be back to our regular programming. So I'll see you shortly.